There was no crime committed, Tucker, no. Never entered the Capitol building exercising my First Amendment. Those of us that have questions about the 2020 election results, they want to intimidate us and they want to threaten us. Not just me and my family, but my supporters as well. All of us that love America.
The government doesn't typically arrest leading candidates in gubernatorial races unless they have you on video accepting cash and putting it in your freezer or something, which is not the case here. Were you surprised that federal agents showed up at your home?
It was definitely a surprise. I think that it's a narrative that the Democrats have been pushing because of their failed policies in regard to energy, in regard to all of the things that matter to Americans. I think a lot of Americans see right through this, Tucker. They understand what the Democrats are up to, and it's not a big deal to them.
Republican candidate for governor of Michigan, Ryan Kelly, who appeared here on Tucker Carlson, was arrested earlier this month in connection with his presence at the January 6th Capitol riots. Kelly will have to surrender his guns while awaiting trial on misdemeanor criminal charges relating to the mob at the Capitol. But new polling from the Michigan race is suggesting that this arrest is actually helping his election chances. So this begs the question, now that we're a few weeks into the hearings covering the January 6th trials, is it possible that they might be backfiring? So as I've covered, the January 6th trials are important in shedding light on what very likely was a conspiracy to overthrow the legal results of the elections in 2020. But there are some key facets of the hearings themselves that have people doubting their efficacy. Something Fox News touts over and over again is that there isn't any dissent on the panels. And on the left, they're being criticized for the fact that it's unlikely there will be any recommendations of charges of conspiracy or any indictments, which suggests that the most important part of these hearings is simply getting an important message out there and not necessarily holding any leaders accountable. So now we're seeing the consequences of that, and they may be deadly for the Democratic Party. Kelly was arrested June 9th, and in a poll conducted for the Detroit Free Press a few days later, 17% named Kelly as their preferred candidate for the August primary to determine which Republican candidate will challenge incumbent Governor Gretchen Whitmer in November. So it doesn't seem like a lot of people, but it means that he's now the GOP frontrunner for the nomination, pulling 4 points ahead of the closest challenger. And this, again, is in the wake of his arrest. Sentiment is spreading around the MAGA world about Kelly and his patriotism, with some residents saying that his arrest is what sealed their votes for him. Jim Flaherty is a local interviewed by the Detroit Free Press and said that, quote, "The number one reason is he was arrested by the FBI. I had my own issues with the FBI about the January 6th incident, even though I wasn't there." So this also gets back to Tucker's line of questioning on the show. Somehow he's making getting arrested for being part of a violent mob to overturn the results of a legal election relatable and conflating it with civil liberties and free speech. Of course, it's possible he was just one of the many people on the Capitol and, as he said, didn't enter the building, but the important thing is that it's now clear what the messaging from the January 6th trials are going to be on the right. It's no longer something Republicans want to sweep under the rug, but they actually are now parading around it loudly and proudly, and these rising poll numbers should give us great cause for concern heading into the midterms. It doesn't mean we shouldn't still closely follow the hearings, but we need to prepare for how the right is already trying to use them to their advantage, instead of their old strategy of ignoring them. Thanks so much for watching. You can follow me on all platforms at Caro Johnson 917.